If you give me one of these damn Trump $250 bills, I swear I will light a cigar with it.
You have to answer the age-old dilemma. Is he an idiot or is he an evil mastermind?
I'm maybe past the Nazi bit. I might be all the way to Antichrist. This is like the abomination that causes desolation.
A lot of these people have crazy ideas, but I think our institutions are bigger than individuals' crazy ideas.
Welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent, I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle, I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking black coffee tonight. I just got done with a vacation on the beach and drinking a lot of day drinking and eating and gorging myself. And I came back, got on the scale, and got really depressed. So now I'm going to get off the booze for a while, try to eat right, try to work out. We'll see how long that lasts.
Kyle's been in the basement drinking black coffee for 4 hours.
That's right.
Well,
the last time I tried to do a dry month, I think I tried to do dry January, and I did. I got to January 3rd, I think. So hopefully I'll do better.
Well, I'm right with you. It's a Clamato Juice for me tonight because I got a busy week and got an early start in the morning.
That's some good stuff.
Welcome back from your vacation. I hope it was good. We actually got a little vacation in as well. So
good. What'd you guys do?
We went sailing.
Oh, nice.
It's a new setup on Lake Michigan. It's a little longer stretch, so we were going to be gone for 4 days, and the forecast started getting a little dire. Our last day was going to be 30-knot winds out of the north, 50 degrees on the water, and 9-foot waves, and my passengers didn't think that sounded like fun and games, so we called it a little bit early.
Man. Well, I had an interesting comment made to me. You know, people that know me know that, I'm not afraid to go cut some rug on a dance floor someplace, especially if the tunes are really good and the beers are flowing. Well, there's this little bar where we're staying, and we were staying in Panama City Beach, Florida, and right across from where we're staying is this little bar called the Salty Goat, and they do live music every night. Well, the first night we get there, they've got live 80s rock band. I mean, it was a dream come true, and I am my wife captured me on video a bit, but I was getting the most out of a evening workout. It's super hot in there, so it's like 100 degrees, and I've got a full body lather, dancing and sweating. And the staff of the place has actually handed me towels. It got so bad. But, I get a little, I'm not a good dancer, but I really have no shame. So I don't mind looking like an idiot. And so I had a great time, but I got pretty enthused in a couple of the songs, especially when he played some Motley Crue. It really got me fired up, and perhaps I was too boisterous because some lady came up and said, "You're on cocaine, aren't you?" Like accusing me of being on drugs because I was so active. I was like, well, that's a great compliment.
Yeah. I usually get, are you on fentanyl? Are you? Because you're just laying there doing nothing. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, both of us kind of been out of it a little bit trying to get back at things. There's obviously a lot of news, but I sent you an article, and I thought it was kind of an interesting one. It sort of covers kind of maybe a zoom out picture of one of the things that I've been interested in, and we'll link it on the show notes, but a op-ed by Mike Pence today in the Wall Street Journal. I'll be interested in your read in it, but it was kind of I took it as sort of a repudiation of some of the things that I think he perceives in the MAGA movement, and distinguishing it from classic conservatism. I guess my question for you is, do you agree that there's a difference between Trumpism and conservatism? And is there a conservative Republican Party left?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess a couple things. One, I find it maybe somewhat humorous that you're talking about this great political mind in Mike Pence writing an article. Like, you don't seem to think he has much insightful things to say typically, but so there's that. I think the other thing is, and I kind of put it in my text, which, by the way, so we're on the trip this week, and there was a guy that was in, like, we're with multiple families, and one of the guys was related to one of the folks that we go with every year, and he listens to the podcast. And I was like, oh man, this is great. So we were chatting about it. One of the things he said, sometimes you guys talk about texting on the side, and we don't know what you're texting about. So we'd love to have more context about what the texts are. So I thought that was really a really good comment.
Well, maybe we could post screenshots to the show notes page.
Well, we'll have to black out the lines that are crossed, because that's the one place the F-bomb is prevalent. You know?
And my concern is that, I mean, if you saw my texts to you, you think I come off as an asshole on the show. I mean, I got a reputation to protect here. I don't know if I can handle that level of transparency.
So I'll read the text. So you sent me that Wall Street Journal article, and you said, I'm open on a topic, but I thought this op-ed by Mike Pence was striking, and how out of phase it seems with where Republicans seem to be today. And I said, could make for a good discussion. I think Mike Pence has challenges with nuance and change. Part of the reason he's not been very successful. You said, I'd also point out that as much as there's Trump derangements on the left, as you point out, I'd oppose almost anything he does. There's the same on the right. Stuff you wouldn't have wanted a million years ago until he said it, then it looks like a great idea. I feel like that's what he's trying to say without saying it exactly. So yeah, no, I think that was good insight. I guess where I see with the Mike Pence thing is, I don't view like conservatism. Okay, maybe back up. I think there's a generational element here as well, where generationally it's like, well, I'm a conservative or I'm a liberal. It's like this identifying thing. And I kind of compare it to, Protestant Christianity. A generation ago, well, I'm a Baptist, and that has a specific meaning. And I'm a Methodist. That has a specific meaning. I go to a non-denominational church. That's pretty common now. I guess where I'm going is, I think in the political realm we are today, it's a little more non-denominational parties than strict constructs of, well, I'm liberal, I'm conservative. And I think you see that on both sides. So I kind of feel like the argument to a degree is almost like, somebody from Ronald Reagan's era came out and did an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, and they're like, well, this isn't conservatism. And it's like, well, yeah, you're right. The world has changed. The pieces on the puzzle have changed. And, you could write that same article about liberalism, and, much of what, things like women's rights, i.e. sports, you talk to Martina Navratilova, she's a huge, and she's a liberal, but she's not in favor of the transgender movement in sports. But, you look at the liberal position today, it doesn't necessarily match the traditional liberal values. And so I guess my only point to that is just, I think, yeah, this makes sense if your goal lines are 1980, but I think it's a different world now, and I think there's stuff that crosses boundaries.
Yeah, that's reasonable and fair. I gotta say, it's interesting that, like, I think the range of the tent of Democrats is really broad. You know, you sometimes like throw positions out that I'm not supportive of at all, and I guess maybe I'm validating your point. I'm a Democrat and I'm voting Democrat right now. I'm not particularly excited about the Democratic Party, its direction, and its politics right now. I am horrified by what has become of what I saw of the Republican Party and the things that even that I disagreed with that I respected. That's not really an answer to your question.
I was looking back at his article. I was paying attention. I wasn't tuning you out. I was paying attention, but I was also re-looking at the article. There were a couple of examples.
I think this, while you're looking at this kind of goes back to what I think in the early days of the podcast, what I was pleading with you to acknowledge, and I think you did when you understood what I was asking, is simply to acknowledge how far a Trumpist Republican Party has come. And if you want to say the Democrats have moved equal and opposite direction, that's fair. But I think there is a real, not surprising for Mike Pence, a boyish nostalgia for Ronald Reagan's 1980 election. I think you're right about that. But it does just go to underscore how far the world has changed. And I wonder why. I want to say this. I don't want it to come across as accusatory. The world has changed a lot. Party alliances have changed a lot. Positions have changed a lot. And that's one of the reasons I changed parties. But what about people that the world's all changed, all the positions have shifted, and they don't change parties?
Well, but I guess that's where I'm going, in that I don't think the positions have done, I mean, the overall stance hasn't been a complete 180 all at once. It's a little more like boiling the lobster in the boiling water, heating it up warm and slowly turning it. I don't know that, we follow, I mean, more than ascribing to, conservatism says this and liberalism says this. I mean, I think we both look at the candidates that run and you make a decision based on that candidate, based on one choice or the other. I think it's logical that there are positions on things that migrate when you look at candidate over candidate over candidate. So yeah, but I guess my point would be, though, like if you held fast to all of those preconceived conditions, you'd never vote for anybody because none of them would fit your bill.
Right. I don't know. My point about the Trump derangement syndrome, like I confess that freely. I think I've given one concession, and that's on the ballroom, that I think setting up a tent on the South Lawn's silly, and so, yeah, build the damn ballroom. But in general, if Donald Trump touches it, I think it's crap, and I want nothing to do with it. I'm horrified by everything that the man does. But I think my point is valid going the other way, because, like I said, I don't think if it hadn't started with him, I don't think you were sitting around thinking, you know what we need is a big ass tariff. And I don't think that you got up one day and were like, you know what we ought to do? We ought to nationalize some of these industries. We ought to take a federal government position, equity stake in a bunch of our companies. Like I don't think that wasn't on your bingo card.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, I think you kind of said it when you said your viewpoint isn't really based on an ideological frame of reference. The guy could do anything and it would be wrong. So your viewpoint is really based on liking one guy over another guy. And I'm not saying that in an accusatory way. I'm kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm not crazy about everything Trump's done. I still prefer him over Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Well, I wonder about that. I wonder how strong my allegiance is to the Democratic Party. I have real concerns about the Democratic Party losing its way, and I think that I don't know. This whole topic really depresses me.
Well, but honestly, if you were holding fast to a party norm, that's a different orientation than everything against, like, kind of a boycott on an individual, because there's going to be things that cross there. And I'm not saying you're wrong for that. There's Democrats that if they were in office, there's probably Republicans that if they were in office, I would oppose most of what they say, because either personal reasons or personality driven or what have you. If Josh Hawley were the president, I would be, I don't think I could stand watching the presentations. But
I'm making the fist gesture that Josh Hawley flashed to the January 6th protesters when he was on his cowardly way out the door to get away from it before it all went to hell.
Oh, nuts. I'll show you.
I can't say you're wrong. I still resist a little bit that, and I resist, but I'm not arguing with you. You make a valid point, but is it just because I hate Trump, or is it because Trump embodies to me an awful coarsening of our political debate? I think he talks in a way that's beneath the nation. I think the 3 a.m. Truth Social rants are, and I think you're going to say that, well, he's honest and you really hear what he's saying. I think he's a creep, and I think he's a petulant, like, thin-skinned, like, he just disgusts me. And that is how we do politics now. So is that me hating him, or is that me hating what he represents? And I think the thing that scares me, I used to think, like, this will bounce back. There are grown-ups in the Republican Party and in the Democrat Party, and I look at Marco Rubio, and I don't agree with everything he believes, but I think he's a grown-up, and he's a decent and dignified human being. But then I think, well, but maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a race to the bottom. Maybe whoever wins the next election is going to be the one that proves to be the biggest asshole, and that's just going to be that's where our country's going. That scares me.
Well, I do think the future winners are going to be those who can manipulate the message the best. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his thin-skinned nature and his. I think he would do better to shut the hell up and not tweet all the time. But I don't think it's accidental. I think it's all part of a game plan to keep his name front and center on every newspaper in the country. And you gave me that idea when I was complaining early on. I was like, man, all this negative press. And you're like, no, that's exactly the idea. And I think you're 100% correct. I think everything he's doing is about keeping his name front and center. As much as that's annoying, it's also extremely effective. And I think is a big reason why he's been as successful as he has. So can somebody keep their name in the mouth of every news person in the future without being an asshole? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, I don't, and this, I don't know. I wanted to honestly interact with the article. I don't mean to just go into just to griping at you, but the cheapening and the coarsening of the discourse troubles me. He's not the only cause of that, but he is certainly the most obvious proponent of that. I worry gravely about the aggregation of executive power. I think that may be the thing that we regret the most out of these Trump years, more than anything. And I think you don't agree with me about the aggregation of executive power, but I think
really.
The courts have been anemic. I think the Congress has been anemic, and I don't like hanging portraits of people on justice departments. I don't like the cult of personality, and I don't want that for. There's not a Democrat that I want to have their frickin' face hanging everywhere and their name on the money. I don't want that.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not. That wasn't one of my priorities. Again, I do think it's hilarious that Barack Obama's LinkedIn page features a picture of Donald Trump. But that aside.
If you give me one of these damn Trump $250 bills, I swear I will light a cigar with it.
There's I don't know about this.
Really?
No. What is this?
There's a plan to issue a $250 bill with his face on it, with the mugshot.
I had not read that. That is hilarious.
And you know the commemorative coin with his face on it. You know, you don't want to use a term like Antichrist loosely, but when the guy mimics the behavior, I'm maybe past the Nazi bit. I might be all the way to Antichrist. This is like the abomination that causes desolation.
Okay, we can go down the Antichrist path, but again, you have to answer the age-old dilemma. Is he an idiot or is he an evil mastermind? And he can't be both.
No.
But you always say he's both, so I'm not sure how.
No,
I don't think an Antichrist is an idiot.
Well, I mean, we could get into the theology of the Antichrist. I think that a personification. We don't want to unpack the whole Antichrist thing, but I don't know. It has a.
I'm reading the articles. I mean, you, sir, just got $250 richer. Let me tell you.
I promise you, if a bill with his face on it lands at my house, if it was $1,000 bill, I will light a cigar with it, and that will be the end of it, because I'm not keeping that in my home.
It's going to be embedded in bulletproof glass, and it's going to be bolted onto the side of your house. So.
And then I'm going to bolt it into the urinal in my basement, and that's going to be the way that I'm going to make the best use of it. Well, this has kind of devolved quickly, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean, this is good. I have been a little out of the loop for the last week, and I'm glad to know about this new currency. I mean, okay. Not advocating.
Please just acknowledge this is tacky. You might love him. This is tacky, right?
Yeah. Yes, I'll give you that it's tacky, but I also think it's hilarious in its own right. I do think, this conversation completely aside, I mean, shouldn't we have denominations north of $100? I mean, have you ever seen anybody try to gamble with $10,000 on a craps table? I mean, think of how much efficiency could be gained in casinos around America if we could get to a $1,000 bill. Kent, come on.
That I'm okay with. I will say the ballroom, less the gold shit on the walls, and getting rid of the penny are two Trump things that I don't think are horrifying. And I could go for $250 bill. The point was that it was timed with the 250th anniversary.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a terrible idea. But you've got roughly 60 how many 65 other potential faces that we could put on that bill. Not to mention a whole host of interesting characters who weren't elected president.
Yeah.
I just
No, I mean, I think the biggest, I don't know, it's when I hear of stories of people talking to Trump in private, he comes off like a very magnanimous, humble, nice guy. But the public image of him is one of, obnoxiousness, of in your face, of all the things that you're complaining about. So it's funny because, and I've had this conversation with somebody else before, I feel like with Trump, and this is just based on what I've read of people that have met him and people I've met that have met him, I feel like with a lot of politicians, the veneer that you get and you see day in and day out is just what you're after. Highly professional, highly polished, of the level and all the things that you say. But I've also read many of those same people in private are not the nice, wonderful, great guy that they are.
Sure.
And I feel like the weird thing with Trump is it's like it's possible he's a pretty nice guy down deep, but he rides around in a persona of an asshole. And it's like the only reason I would say somebody would do that is if there was a benefit in being an asshole. And I think the benefit is the self-promotion, is the media promotion, everything I've mentioned. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to pass a judgment, good, bad, or other, on the humanity of the man. I guess my point is, yes, there are things I don't like about him, and there's things about his public persona I don't like, but it's not enough to say I want the policies and the presence of Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I follow you on that. I guess the difference I would point out is that, I don't know, he might be just, we've always talked about the barbecue test, right? Like, and I think of presidents in my living memory, I think, for 2 hours having a beer at a barbecue, I think Bill Clinton, hands down, is going to win that competition most of the time. And for what you said, apparently Trump, when he's hosting parties at Mar-a-Lago, is a very charming guy. But well, I'm not hard.
I also met one of his Secret Service detail, and she said glowing things about him. So I've heard of people at different levels that have said incredibly positive things about him, but it's nothing that you'd see in the news.
Well, but we're not hiring a barbecue host. We're hiring a leader of the free world. And so the public presence does matter. You're totally right. I'm sure there are a lot of people that look just right out of central casting and smooth and articulate as you want and are jerks in reality. Totally get that.
But I think that's the appeal, and that's what's weird about it. It's the same thing you hate is the same thing, I've talked about before, the same thing you despise are characteristics that people like to see because they think, hey, here's somebody who's speaking his mind. Here's somebody who says things unvarnished in a non-quote unquote presidential way. And a lot of people find that refreshing. There's much of that I find refreshing often. I just wish it was balanced with, a little less of some of the negative qualities. But I don't know. We seem to have veered.
I don't know. We got to change the subject because I get depressed by this. I'm just telling you that I think I am horrified by this. And I dread the idea of a Democrat doing the same thing.
Well, I think just in the conversation we've had, it's you don't have policy concerns. You've got concerns about personality.
That's the primary concern. I got a lot of policy concerns.
And most of what you're talking about and all these things, like he's claimed all this power and he's got all this stuff. Well, he doesn't really have all this power, and you've kind of acknowledged that. It's just that he's trying to gain more power and more influence. But I don't know that that's that much different than other presidents who have tried to do crap that they didn't really have the authority to do until they were beaten back by a court or Congress. I mean, I guess I'm not as alarmist about it, but the part of the reason I'm not as alarmist about it is I don't have the natural mistrust and disgust for everything that comes across the table that he says or does. And I guess if I was in your shoes where every time he opens his mouth, I'm disgusted and horrified, well, yeah, I would think it's doom and gloom as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, let's follow that. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Fast forward 4 years from now, President Newsom has teamed up with Speaker of the House Hakeem Jeffries. This is not this far out of reality, right? And Lord, I hope we don't redo Schumer if we get the Senate back. But Jeffries was already talking about the idea of expanding the Supreme Court to 13 justices.
Yeah.
4 of whom would be immediately appointed by and rubber stamped by, immediately appointed by President Newsom and rubber stamped by a Democrat Senate. Even if we don't talk about policy, does that give you any pause? I mean, does that make you nervous at all?
It does, but I guess what I'm saying is, what the hell did Trump create that makes that more likely than not, other than the fact he appointed conservative justices, which is what we wanted him to do if you're conservative?
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's a Mitch McConnell cheating on the system was a part of that. Maybe that's more bitterness at McConnell for that,
right?
Not giving Garland a hearing, more than Trump personally. But that should worry you, I think. I think that's not a good thing.
Yeah, okay. But again, what the hell executive power is resulting in that? What precedent did Trump do in executive power to make that more realistic, other than the fact that it's an objectionable thing? I mean, I guess I'm with you. That is objectionable. I don't want to see it go to 13 justices or some huge committee. But I don't know that Trump being in office made that more likely, other than the fact we've got more conservative justices, and that's their answer, is we'll just pack the court with more justices.
No, I think it has, and I don't think you're going to buy my argument, but I think it has. I think he has repeatedly exhibited somewhere between contempt of and ignorance of how the Constitution of the United States works. And if we want to point to one of those things, it might be trying to make the author of this article, Mike Pence, violate his oath to the Constitution to keep Trump in office against I still the fact that they reelected him after that, just boggles my mind. I think that was a serious threat to our country. And I'm not a huge Mike Pence fan, but I think that he said in his mind that preservation of the Constitution is more important than loyalty to this guy. And I think did it actually create the conditions under which the Democrats are willing to throw the Supreme Court under the bus? No. But it cheapens the whole thing when you play games like that. I
just don't get that connection at all. I mean, how the hell does that have anything to do with packing the Supreme Court? I guess I don't understand.
It just seems like a lack of respect for the Constitution and the rule of law. And that's the genie that I don't think we can put back in the bottle. That's what's worried me. And I don't have a list of specifics for you. You're right. But I worry about that. We got a guy who literally tried to overturn the election in the House of Representatives.
I don't think he is unique in somebody that's pushed on the limits of the Constitution. The Constitution, people try to do things, fly out of formation all the time. I don't know that that's unique to Donald Trump. And I think you could show a lot of examples of other people that have tried to do things that were unconstitutional. And that's why we have a court system. That's why we have a legislative branch to push back on these things. It's not that nobody ever pushes something. It's that we've got a strong system in place and strong enough institutions to push back when somebody tries to go the wrong direction. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff that Trump tries to do and somebody pushes back, which I think is pointless, but those institutions exist and that you can't do everything you want. I guess I just don't get I think there's a lot of other people that wanted to do a lot of things that couldn't do it because we have a strong government. I get the guy says outrageous things. I think our institutions are more powerful than that. And I don't think he's gotten away with any of the crazy shit that he said. So it's like your worry is that what if somebody has some crazy ideas? I think a lot of these people have crazy ideas, but I think our institutions are bigger than individuals' crazy ideas.
What did you hate so much about Joe Biden?
That he was non-existent and incompetent and asleep.
But shouldn't that have been a good thing? Like, what did he do that hurt you?
I mean, my concern with Joe Biden is he wasn't the one in charge. It's the unelected yahoos that are in charge. I'd rather have a strong executive who you know exactly what he thinks than a senile guy that lets everybody else do everything behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did not vote for Stephen Miller. I mean, it's not like Trump's immune to that, but clearly, I mean, I acknowledge that Biden should not have been president. They should have taken. By the way, as an aside, did you read the excerpts from Jill Biden's memoir?
No, I saw something about how
she's like, I was watching the debate and I thought, oh no, something's wrong. Maybe he's having a stroke. And I was just,
you guys aren't real close, are you?
Look, nobody is more bitter about how the insiders in the White House protected that and kicked that can down the road. Believe me, no argument there. I don't know, we're going in circles, and it's not useful.
Well, it's always going to go back to the fact you hate Trump, and I don't hate him like you hate him, so I don't hate him, and so we're always going to run into that problem.
Yes.
I hear you that he said something in a tweet. I don't take everything he says in a tweet as serious in the gospel. I think a lot of it's him musing and venting and everything else. I'm not crazy about everything in the tweets. But again, he hasn't launched a campaign to eliminate the Constitution in the United States. All this stuff that you're worried about hasn't happened. And it hasn't happened, one, because a lot of the crazy shit he says is just crazy shit he says and isn't really going to happen. And two, because we have strong institutions that aren't going to let every whim that he has be fulfilled. So I honestly think it really boils down a lot to that, in that you despise the personality and the presentation and the approach. I don't necessarily despise it. I don't necessarily think it's helpful all the time. But I like many of the things that he's doing, and I give him the benefit of the doubt on some of those things, and you don't. And I don't think we're ever going to agree on that.
Well, true. All right. Well, I'm sorry to have dragged you through this tonight.
No, I've loved every minute of it. I've loved picking apart your the holes in your arguments. It gives me great joy, Kent. No, I'm kidding. No, I enjoy it. And seriously, This is why we do this. I mean, this is the, I feel like I have enjoyed some of our podcasts where we've agreed on stuff, but I think, if our experiment of civil dialogue is going to come through, it's got to be, you got to apply it to these areas of vehement disagreement, or else it's not as valid. It's one thing to say, oh, we have this nice political discourse, but we agree on everything,
No, you're right. You're right. I guess
again,
we got to come up with a nicer way to end this.
I'm pushing you, Kent. Run for office. I'll be out there pitching the Democrat all day, every day.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.